Gibdos, gruesome creatures wandering in vain. Roaming slowly within dark territories, they linger in pain. The bandaged creatures, the size of humans who when set aflame, revealed to be another monster living inside the bandaged frame. In Majora's Mask specifically, the bandages reveal the Gibdos to be ReDeads, though in other games they rather turn into stealth foes instead. They would fight accordingly to their hidden forms after the reveal. Though for the Majora's Mask Gibdos, this changes nothing for their ordeal. The behavior of that of a ReDead and Gibdo are alike. They are both zombie-like creatures waiting for an opportunity to strike. Depicted heavily like a corpse, though one could not tell its identity. Skin tightly wrapped around its frame like a starved-out entity. Its gruesome appearance with the need to hide the face, but having their blood-scorching teeth sticking out anyway. Despite what the Super Smash Bros. Trophies on ReDeads say, these entities are clearly not made out of clay. They are actual reanimated dead that could have turned into a Gibdo, cursed the one of the earth in their everlasting limbo. In the world of Termina, in each cardinal direction there is a different realm, and each realm houses a main group of inhabitants who majorly overwhelm. The Dekus live in the south, the Gorons in the north, the Zoras in the west, but humans appear to have gone forth, to no longer live in the east, but rather reside in the center, as the eastern realm has become the most difficult realm to enter. What was once a great canyon, a thriving place for all, it had now become a symbol of Ikana Kingdom's downfall. Stuck in history, reliving a never-ending war of immense bloodshed, this land has now been claimed by the living dead. A few poor souls continue to live in this region. A thief and a gravekeeper watching over the undead legion. A scientist fearlessly moved in along with his daughter, wanting to research the dead despite being a father. To study the roaming dead without a shiver. His house generates energy from the river, so the music box can keep the Gibdos at bay, playing a song to chase the dead away. But something terrible has happened to this place. The Gibdos surround the house in for a chase. Those Gibdo who, during daytime, don't normally show their faces, and are only known to roam and exist in very dark places. The Skull Kid has cursed this region like any other. To allow more space for the dead to roam, he spread a thick cover of darkness to purposely block out all of the sun's light, for the dead to continue to roam and cause more fright. Worse, the music box house's song can no longer be played, as the river had dried up, signaling the fall of their failsafe. Aiming to help by doing research on those lingering in need, the researcher had gotten careless and paid no heed. In an attempt to investigate and find out their curse, blinded by his quest, his own fate had turned out for the worst. As much as he progressed with his investigation left on his shelf, after visiting the well, he had been turning into a Gibdo himself. Unable to stop the transformation, his daughter left traumatized. She had to hide him in the closet, adding her tatty disguised, putting sealing tags within the closet to hopefully cast the curse away. But none of that kept the lingering Gibdo outside at bay. They call for their friend to come out and join them, but the helpless girl barricades the door and condemns, yelling that she won't give up protecting her dad, shouting that he's not one of them as they're slowly driving her mad. Link finds a method to break the curse on the river's source and manages to return the river's flow. Energy can be generated once again for the music box, and the music plays to ward off the foes. sounding like a childish written happy waltz. The Gibdos can't bear to hear the sound, driving them mad as if touching their humanity. They quickly retreat into the ground. The Gibdo are gone, but the curse isn't undone. Unlocking the door, Pamela comes out, amazed to see the return of the river's flow. Thinking on how to help her dad, she slowly walks over to the place where the Gibdos go. Link sneaks inside, and downstairs, the cursed professor bursts out of his hide. In a sorry state, he startles Link, moaning, covered in bandages with bloodshot eyes. Suffering in deep despair, his humanity is only barely there. Link plays the Song of Healing in order to heal the professor's human heart. The song is known to lift spirits and cure curses, turning them into masks to make them part. The professor returns to normal, without having a clue what just had taken place. But his daughter hugs him and cries in joy, as she's just glad to see his normal face. Now having returned to normal, and his daughter no longer saddened, he had apparently gone to the well to investigate, but doesn't remember it. When it comes to the research that had been done so far, he'll share his discoveries into what the Gibdos truly are. That is a mummified man. Its scientific name is Gibdo. A tale in Ikana mentions a treasure that rests at the bottom of the well on the hilltop. It seems the spirits of those who sought that treasure still linger there, those poor souls who gained Gibdos upon entering the well. It's been said going down there is a petrifying experience, so even the mummy hunter may become mummified. A lone dried well filled with undead carrying a curse carries a parallel within Kakariko's village of Ocarina of Time's universe, where Kakariko's well was drained through playing the Song of Storms. That same song and Majora's Mask restored Ikana's river to its previous form. Both wells had a treasure inside necessary for Link to progress, though these are the only connections to address. So what is Nintendo's obsession with creating such underground hells? Or more importantly, what is the curse of the well? A Gibdo is a person who got mummified, for whoever remained in the well to stay. But within the cloth, people turn into a ReDead inside, as the curse slowly drains their life force away, both petrifying their victims when met with their gaze. Screeching screams, slowly attacking, they both also die when met with light's beams. Once they get a hold of their victim, they bite away at their heads, but this only works if their victim is of fleshy kin, their behavior being the same as that of ReDeads. Clearly, Gibdos are the same monsters with a different skin. Some ReDeads even mentioned to be of the royal family's dance troupe, though will only show their true colors when met with the familiar face of their group. The Gibdos that can be found within the well's depths, having their cloth burnt or not, to marine Gibdos or turn ReDeads, endlessly stand in front of their gates, suffering and begging for anyone to change their fates, asking for random items, big bows, bugs, and other odd requests, to those of their own kind only, forming a large trading quest. But even in this state, they are still actual people all the same, because when these creatures die, no matter in what game, they don't dissolve like any other monster going out in a burst or flame. So killing them means killing an actual human being. They may be dropping dead on the ground, but it's unsure if that lifts the curse on them freeing, as those of the same kin will gather around. Outsiders unsure if they are mentally still there, capable of thought, They stare at the defeated friend who's left to rot. Because it appears only one of their own kind is capable of helping the others out. And despite the curse twisting their human minds, they are capable of speech when a fellow Gibdo is found. Thus, only one of their own is able to release them from the curse of the well, to which they are bound. In order to move on and overcome the regrets of their lives prior, they need to be offered the items they desire, which most can be found within the well, and yet it has to be given to them to ease that regret. So the professor, in his attempt to help, had become what he needed to be, as only another Gibdo could set these Gibdos free. Now it's no longer strange that the Gibdos were asking for their friends to join them when they swarmed the home of the father and daughter, as the scientist was close to giving relief to the Gibdos meeting their ends, though by losing his consciousness, he just ended up next for slaughter. But why does this transformation even happen at all? It had to do with the treasure for which all these people had taken the fall, a shield that absorbs and guides light into whatever it's aimed at, to carry light back into the Ikana kingdom. What one would need is just that. But those who entered the well to seek this treasure were doomed by that greed, which is probably why Link is unaffected. A passage to the castle is all he needs. He happened to find the treasure anyway, but not with intent. Therefore, he escaped the curse unscathed, while others remained to lament. The frightening face displayed on it portrays the victims it had cursed. But most notably, the designers of the game admit it was actually the mask that came first, as the same design can be seen by the happy mask salesman, but later figured the design belongs more on the shield, for both were designed with a plan, as the mask was initially a reference to the Native American moon mask with an agonizing face, to portray the astral body as an important light source, reflecting the sun's light into space. The contrast to also use it for this shield's design remarks the starkness, that just like the moon, the mere shield reflects outside light to shine upon the darkness. Knowing that the living dead are weakened or even killed by its light, it could serve as a solution to bring peace to those roaming in spite. The Sun Song was also developed in Ocarina of Time for this purpose, but only in Majora's Mask. The light has more effect than his dancing circus. But that begs the question, could that mean? That sounds like a cruel joke to put the solution in a cursed scene. So the people who went into the well, who risked their lives, hoping to solve other people's curses with a treasured heirloom, not knowing that the moment they would set foot with such desire in the well, that the artifact itself became the very bringer of their doom, as if they were cursed by an Egyptian tomb. As within Egyptian myth, trespassers who enter tombs for treasure during exploration would soon die after due to a curse of the owner's damnation, as the thieves' loot in a nearby area holds Egyptian coffins as decoration. Though here the punishment is made even more Egyptian due to the live mummification, cursing them to become hungry ghosts after having turned into Gibdos, and therefore having passed away, being completely drained of their life forces. They have become creatures of folklore that are often mentioned in Asia within the Buddhist and Japanese sources. The Japanese call these monsters gaki, which means hungry ghosts. Though Buddhists originally made this concept calling them preta, which means diseased. Hence why the connections are obvious, with the Gibdos having turned into ReDeads. For these creatures are actual mortal souls stuck in limbo with no end. This result was done through their own deeds, as only spoiled people with immense greed have done horrible things and invoked corruption, turning their karma into a negative construction. These people have stopped at nothing to achieve their goals. The suffering they caused others would even after death take a toll. Doomed to roam forever with an insatiable hunger for anything. They can be craving any type of substance or object that one can bring. Because their hunger can only be stilled by it, no matter how weird or disgusting. And will ease their regrets when a selfless person finally brings them an offering. They will finally be free to rest once their hunger is satisfied. Once rid of their hunger, they no longer have a reason to cling and can return to the afterlife. This makes the Gibdos within the well different from other ReDeads, as outside this well, ReDeads are not asking for such weird requests. Thus, this game wanted to create a distinction by adding another skin, but even normal ReDeads aren't creeping around without any sin. Though appearing unclothed, there is still something they wear, as the game and official art cannot show their faces bare. Despite their teeth and gaze, a mask hides most of their face. But for what reason could the living dead make this case? In Ocarina of Time side quest, a nod was made to its origin, where Link helps the Happy Mask salesman serving as his stand-in, selling his masks all across Hyrule to whoever who would like to buy, eventually unlocking the spooky mask from his supply. Wearing this mask shocked this world's Tempeh, the Gravekeeper, asking if he's aware of the mask's origins and why he'd wear it with such eager. Showing this mask to the professor at the lakeside laboratory, he too will reveal a somewhat shocking testimony, as he concludes that the mask is made from a coffin, a place where Gibdos can be found spawning from within. As Egyptian tombs have led to the existence of the Gibdo creatures, within burials people often did a bit more than these Egyptian procedures. Royalty in Egyptian lore would go way beyond creating a sarcophagus. The fancy coffin was meant for the powerful to show their prominence. Going out in a fancy sarcophagus was clearly not reserved to all. And knowing corpses are hard to identify if ever found in their burial. A commoner who would perish would receive a death mask instead, as they believed it would ward off evil spirits and later help identify the dead. These death masks were not a custom only limited to Egypt, as Europe and other regions also gave them to the dead of the crypt. The spooky mask being made from a coffin that no longer strikes as odd, as a sarcophagus mask was directly tied to the deceased pod. So ReDead continued to wear their death masks to preserve their humanity, as the true horror is that they too fell victim to suffer until eternity. Or at least until someone like Link could save these creatures of their lingering regrets, by shining light to set them free, to give peace to the living dead. If you enjoyed this video and think I'm doing well, then make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.